Yo, what up guys, I'm Sammy and welcome back to the Soul Brothers channel, and this is my first impressions look on the Nike KD Trey 510. So of course this shoe is going for $95. It is Kevin Durant's budget shoe with Nike, and the KD Trey 5 line has been solid, but I was not a huge fan of the KD Trey 5.9. But as you guys can see, it is pretty much the same exact tooling as far as the midsole and outsole goes, right? And that's what Nike does with their budget shoes. For 2 years, they always recycle the midsole and outsole, and then the upper is just different. Of course, it saves them money, but also I still think kind of borderline that budget shoes, especially from Nike, are, you know, kind of like scams a little bit, just because I feel bad when, you know, there's a little kid, you know, at the gym or something like that. I'm not a little kid, but there's a kid at the gym and he's like, yeah, I got the Kyries or the KDs, and it's like his budget shoe. And I'm like, you know, Kyrie doesn't really, you know, wear those shoes, or the KD doesn't really wear those shoes, or LeBron, or whoever it is. And if you think about it, like Adidas doesn't do that. They don't really have budget models as much. I mean, they used to have Hardens, but it's not really, they don't really sell it anymore. You know, I guess they do have the step back line, but I don't know where it is. It's not on Adidas. But either way, you know, like they never wear the shoe, but then they put, like Nike just slaps their name on it. You know what I mean? And like, is it really their shoe, and did they have anything to do with the design? Like did KD sit down with the designers at Nike and go over the budget shoe? I don't know, but either way, this is the KD Trey 510 and this is 9. Of course, this is the 8. The 8 was absolutely amazing, if you guys remember this. Right, so again, if you guys want to cop, I try to leave an affiliate link in the description box, but let's get it started off with the Tracciones. And in this colorway we have a very bright or like teal color, which I really like, and then we have a little bit of red going throughout the outsole, covering the midfoot and heel. And also we have the the foam exposed here in the heel, and we can see the KD logo, which is it's just like the KD Trey 5.9, where when you're walking, it kind of like suctions the heel a little bit and it kind of sticks, which is weird. It's a very interesting feeling. But anyways, so in the KD Trey 5.9, right, if you guys remember, this traction was absolutely horrendous for me. I could not get a good bite. It was just sliding around everywhere, and I even tried it again on my wood floors, and it was sliding around a lot, right? And gum usually is nice, you know what I mean? But here in the KD Trey 510, I don't know if they changed up the rubber compound or it's the color of the outsole. It's kind of weird, because in my experience of testing shoes, I have tested, you know, a good amount of shoes in my time. The outsole performance can change depending on the actual color of the outsole as well. I've had where, I don't remember the exact shoe, but there was like a white rubber outsole, I had another colored outsole, and then the black rubber outsole. And then they all perform pretty differently, and also translucent outsoles versus semi-translucent outsoles can perform differently also. And also solid rubber outsoles, right? So sometimes it's different, and in this case I feel like it's different because the KD Trey 510 for me right now is sticking really well on my wood floors right now. It has a little bit of a squeak. The KD Trey 5.9 was pretty silent for me, but yeah, the 10s are sticking really well. There's a little bit of a squeak. So yeah, I don't know, I'm guessing they just changed up the rubber compound, and that's why I say the rubber outsole pattern isn't as important as like the actual rubber compound, because in this case it's the exact same rubber outsole pattern, right? But anyways, yeah, so it's sticking real well, and I'm pretty damn excited to play in it. You know, I was very surprised, because I was a little reluctant to get the 10 because I really didn't like the 9, because it was a super huge disappointment to me from the 8, because I really love playing the 8, right? So there's that. Of course, we have to see on the performance on dust. Also, the grooves are super thin, and yes, pretty easily moved with my fingers. We have some like really squiggly lines a little bit, and then there's some circles here in the midfoot, but durability does not seem good here in the KD Trey 510. So there's the outsole there. As far as the heel to toe transition goes, it feels pretty smooth, and in the KD Trey 5.9 it was very nice as well. So here in the heel we have a nice rounded shape, and we have Renew foam you know, and that's what Nike uses on their budget shoes normally. And then here in the forefoot, we have a nice curve shape and a lot of forefoot flex. There's not a whole lot of midfoot flex. It seems like there is probably just like a rectangular plastic midfoot chain plate. But here in the forefoot, there's nice flex. So overall, it feels very smooth for a heel to toe transition. Also, the cushioning setup you would think is the exact same as the KD Trey 5.9, but for some reason, the KD Trey 5.10, I can definitely feel the zoom unit a lot easier. And it feels a lot bouncier than the KD Trey 5.9 for some reason. I don't know what it is. Like, it feels top loaded and just feels like, you know, where the ball of your foot is, where kind of like your toes start. That's where it feels nice. So the zoom unit actually felt nice. And of course, I put this shoe on again as well, and I couldn't feel the zoom unit as much as in the 10. So I don't know if they changed it up a little bit, or I'm just crazy, but it just feels a little bit nicer here in the forefoot for the zoom unit. And also Renew, I mean, I honestly, I do like Renew, but of course Renew foam does bottom out very quickly. So, you know, right now it's soft. There's not a whole lot of rebound back or bounce, just a tiny bit, you know, just from my experience playing in Renew in the past. But you know, it's nice here in the Trey 5.10 as it was here in the 9. Core feel seems very good. So overall, I'm liking the cushioning setup so far. You know, Renew is nice in the heel, and then the forefoot zoom unit gives a little bit of bounce. So overall, it feels like a pretty solid cushioning setup, especially for the price. Moving on to the material. So I feel like it's a little bit of a downgrade in quality from the 9, right? It was a pretty nice like textile, you know, as you guys can see the actual like strands that they wove into the material. The Trey 5.10, it just uses like a mesh material. It definitely is softer though, right? The textile definitely feels a little bit more supportive and a little bit stiffer, although it's not stiff. I'm just saying compared to the 10, it's stiffer, right? The 10 is just super soft, and that does feel nicer on foot, you know, especially when you're like bending the shoe like this, but it doesn't feel as supportive. There's a little, just a tiny bit of stretch. It still feels pretty supportive, but not as supportive as shoes probably like, you know, the Zion 2 or the mono mesh in the MV1, right? So I am a little bit worried about support, just a tiny bit, but I don't think it's gonna be a huge deal. And of course, the biggest change is the strap, and I really like how the strap looks. You know, it's a great looking shoe. And as far as the material of the strap goes, we have screen mesh, and which I like because, you know, it straps like the Kyrie 6 or the Zoom Freak 3. It was like a thicker plastic, which I didn't like because it made the shoe overall a little bit bulkier and stuff like that, and didn't really improve the lockdown all too much. And here in the 10s, it doesn't really feel like it improves lockdown either. First of all, it's a one-way strap, which, you know, you can really crank it down, but it doesn't really improve lockdown all too much. I mean, just tightening up your laces does the same thing, right? Also, another thing that I don't like is that, you know, if you really want to crank it down, you can't really crank it down because the strap just goes over this Velcro right here, right? So there's only like one way, like, or one like kind of adjustment that you can, or one level of tightness that you can do, and that's just right here. Maybe you can go down a little bit more, but not much, right? So I also don't really like that. I mean, the strap I feel like is a little bit useless, but it looks great. As far as the tongue goes, we have like an average amount of padding. It feels nice, but it is an independent tongue, which I don't like. You know, most modern shoes have a half booty construction tongue, but it is a budget shoe, so that makes sense. And then for the foam here in the ankle area, I would say there's a nice plush padding on top of the ankle collar area, but it's not like super plush or anything. I would say probably around average. So overall, it feels really comfortable on foot. It conforms to your foot. It feels minimal, and then it feels more on the cozier side of things here in the back of the shoe. Not super cozy like the Kyrie Infinity or the MB1, but it still feels pretty nice. So overall, you know, I mean, for quality, it's not the best, but you can't really complain because it's a $95 shoe, but it feels really nice on foot so far. All right, moving on to the fit. I went true to size, and it fits me pretty well. I mean, like, that was the biggest issue with me for the KD Trey 5. It wasn't the biggest issue, but it was a little bit of an issue because, I mean, the traction was the biggest issue. It was really bad in this, but also, I don't know why they changed up the fit so much comparing it to all of his other KD Trey models, because remember that in the 8, like, if you compare it, the 8 is actually a lot narrower, right? And of course, it's not a good or bad thing for most people. It all depends on what your preference is for your fit, but for me, I like to have a very snug fit, right? And I have a pretty narrow foot as well. So they did make it a little bit wider here in the 10, also the 9. But the 10 feels a little bit more snug, which I liked. You know, the 9 was actually pretty roomy, which I didn't like. The 10 feels a little bit more snug here in the toe box, but width-wise, it feels pretty much the same as the 9. But length-wise, true to size, and my toes go pretty much right to the edge of the shoe. I can curl my toes up just a tiny bit, but it's not as bad as the 9 for me personally, so I do definitely like that. But hopefully, the mesh material doesn't stretch out all too much and make the fit here in the toe box roomier, but overall it's a pretty nice fit. It's definitely not as nice as the KD Trey 5.8 for me, but it's not terrible, right? All right, moving on to the support and lockdown. For lateral containment, I feel like it's gonna be okay. You know, like I said here in the forefoot, you don't really have a lateral counter, right? And this material is just super soft, and they don't really fuse it up either. So I am a little bit worried about forefoot containment, but here in the midfoot, I guess we do have the strap, but it's not like a super supportive strap either. You know what I mean? And nothing really coming up to act as a sidewall, which is weird. But here in the heel, we have the foam coming up, and we have this like rubber piece with KD's logo, and then here in the heel we have an internal TPU heel counter. So lateral containment feels like it's gonna be okay, but I am a little bit worried about the forefoot and midfoot. For lateral stability, it seems okay. You know, it's not the craziest like outrigger. There's really no outrigger. It protrudes out a little bit as far as the midsole and outsole go, but it feels overall pretty good so far for lateral stability. All right, moving on to the weight of the shoe. It's probably gonna be super freaking light. I mean, Renew foam is very light, and also the materials, there's not a whole lot of foam or bulk in this shoe. So I'm guessing like 11 ounces, 11 ounces, 10.97 ounces. So basically 11 ounces. Let's check the other pair. 10.9 ounces, right? So a super light for these. Let's check the 9. These will be super light too. The 10.72, and then the KD Trey 5.8 is 10.05 ounces. So yeah, I mean, very, very lightweight. It feels extremely lightweight and minimal on foot. And I feel like it's gonna be an overall responsive shoe. You know, the cushion feels responsive. The traction feels really good so far right now, which I'm very excited about. And material feels super minimal too, but I am a little bit worried about support, so hopefully I don't feel too laggy or not responsive, you know, for lateral containment. But overall, it feels really nice. All right, as far as the aesthetics go, I love it. This, I don't know if it's the colorway or the actual shoe, because like there is another colorway out right now, which I don't really like all too much, but this one looks great, you know, on foot. And I just really like the strap design, you know, with the swoosh on it. I don't know why, especially comparing to like the KD 14, remember? So tell us what you guys think of the aesthetics down in the comment section below. So wrapping things up, I was very surprised because as I mentioned before, I really didn't like this shoe. So I was like, I don't really want to get the 10s, but I should try it out. And I was pleasantly surprised from my first impressions. You know, the traction seems way better. Cushion also seems a little bit better because of the forefoot zoom unit. And then although the material quality isn't as good, the fit is actually better for me for some reason than the KD Trey 5.9. So I do like that also. And it looks better too, in my personal opinion. Although the 9 didn't look terrible, right? So yeah, I'm very excited to try these out, and I feel like it'll be a very good budget shoe, and if it is, that's good for us. Cheaper shoes that are great performers are always a good thing, right? So anyways, my first impressions are good, and if you guys do want to cop, I'll try to leave the affiliate link in the description box, but that about concludes my first impressions look on the Nike KD Trey 510. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.